Welcome to Contractor Cuts, where we cover the good, the bad, and the ugly of growing a successful contracting company.
Welcome back to Contractor Cuts. My name is Clark Turner.
I'm Jared Flo.
Thank you for joining us again. So this week we are talking about the 3 things you can start doing today to start towards growth systems and building your company to the next level.
That's right.
Last week we covered, if you're in a bad spot, or even if you're not in a bad spot, the guys that are just kind of in the mouse wheel of running, and I can't get anywhere, and I feel like I'm running in sand, and I'm back where I was 3 years ago.
Keep ending up in the same spot. Yep.
There is a reason for that. And so what we talked about last week is a lot of times you want to change things. I want to change things. You start getting some speed, some pipeline of jobs that are coming,
and then you stop there.
And that's where you stop.
Mm-hmm.
And so the question is, what do I have to do to keep going beyond that, and where do I start?
One of the biggest principles of that was shifting from reactive to proactive.
Yep.
And the things that we're going to talk about today are the proactive things that you need to start with that are going to build the foundation of your growth and direction. You have to have these things in place.
What we talked about was self-awareness and shifting from reactive to proactive. All of that building to I have a vision of where I'm going. I'm not looking in the weeds, but I'm looking up and saying, okay, this is where I need to be in 6 months. This is where I need to be in a year.
Yeah.
And understanding the direction I'm going. Then from there, I'm going, what was the next step that we had talked about? From
eating the elephant.
That's right. From there, it's like, okay, that's where I want to get in 6 weeks, 6 months, 1 year. I need to figure out one step at a time.
Small,
how do I eat the
bite-sized
elephant?
pieces.
One bite at a
That's right.
time, because that's going to allow me to take those steps to where when I look back in 6 months, I've now done a ton of stuff because I just did 1 or 2 things each week to get to that spot.
That's right.
And then the last thing is accountability. How am I going to take those bite-sized pieces and get them executed to where I'm on to the next, and that's having someone there to say, hey, this is what you're doing this week. Okay, let's talk next week. Let's see if that actually happened. If you had issues with that, let's help. And again, that's where our coaching comes in, with kind of guiding you through those steps, guiding you through what 6, 12, 18 months should look like, as well as every step you need to take, and then the accountability piece of how to execute that.
Yeah.
But to do all of that, this week, there are 3 things that are our base fundamentals. These are the bottom of the pyramid that you can't grow anything else unless you have these 3 things.
That's right.
Right. So the diving straight into that, the first of the 3 things that you have to have is time management. Right. Everybody wants to spend your time to suit what they need. Right. Your employees, your customers, your wife, your kids' school, right? Everything in your life wants to spend your time. So if I'm not managing my time, if I don't have a calendar where I can set aside time blocks to work on my company and abide by the calendar, that's the second part, not just having it, then there is no way to do anything else.
Yeah.
So that's why it's one of our first base fundamentals. Jared, what if I'm coming in and I'm saying, hey, I'm just all over the place. I kind of use a calendar, but I just have to get to my jobs, and I feel like there's so many fires. I'm putting those out. Where do I start with owning my time and time management?
Yeah. Well, the reality about this business, and really any business, but specifically the construction and contracting world, if I'm not working to be proactive in owning my time and owning my schedule, I will end up with everyone else running my time. Because it is a forest fire of things going on, and everybody needs your time, and everybody wants something from you. And so if you are not working to manage your own time, you will end up in that space over and over and over and over. And so the very beginning of this is just setting up a basic weekly calendar.
Yep.
We have one that we go over with all of our coaching clients that is a suggestion for on the project manager level, people that are running jobs. How do I organize my time? Because as a project manager, everybody's coming at me, right? I've got my subs that need something, my vendors that need something, my office that needs something, right? And I can end up just spinning my wheels and never executing anything with excellence. I'm just when it needs to get done, I spend time and I get it done.
Well,
right?
and a good way to start blocking that off, if you're trying to implement some of the stuff today, don't try and spend every 15 minutes on your calendar on something and
Right.
fill it up. What we're going to start doing is every single day is kind of blocked off.
It's
right?
day blocking.
So
That's right.
day one on Mondays is our field days. I'm visiting on my job sites, and there's a whole list of stuff that you should be doing on Monday. On Tuesday, 100% office day. I'm not doing estimates on Tuesday. I'm not visiting job sites on Tuesday. I am doing these 7 things in the office every Tuesday to ensure that communication happens. Wednesday, Thursdays are free open days. I could be on the field. I can do estimates. And then Fridays are going to be 50-50. 50% of the day, the first 4 hours, I'm going to be in the office organizing. The second half of the day, I could be going out running jobs. Not to get too much in the weeds, but that's what we want you to do is start looking, okay, these are the days I'm going to do this stuff. And that way, when someone calls and says, hey, can you come for an estimate? Yes, I can. How does Wednesday sound? Because that's my day that I'm going to be out there.
If you have a system of organization, you have something to point other people towards.
Yep.
Right? You have just like you just said, client calls and says, I need this from you. Will you drop everything and come here? I've got an emergency, whatever it is. You normally go to the place of like, okay, customer services, do whatever they need me to do to make sure they're happy. Yeah, I'm going to drop what I'm doing. I'm going to go out there.
Yep.
Right? Most of the time, that's a waste.
Yep.
Because tomorrow I was planning on walking out there anyways because I know the flooring's getting finished and I want to walk the property after flooring is done to make sure it was good. So I was already planning on being out there tomorrow, right? And so if I have my week, a system of organization of my time, then the people that come at me asking for time, I can point to the spaces that I have for them.
Yep, exactly.
Right?
And along with that, I have accountability on myself to where I have catches on each of these days to where stuff doesn't drop through. So again, we're not going to go too deep into how to organize your calendar. We do that if you're a coaching client, and it takes a lot of time to walk through that. But the goal is the first way that Jared was talking about, where I'm kind of shooting from the hip and just putting out fires. Someone needs an estimate, I can hop in my truck and go out there, and I'm living that way with my schedule as to my the biggest fires and needs are what dictates to where I go today.
Yep.
If that's the way you're keeping your calendar, it's not going to work long term.
That's what's called the hamster wheel.
Yes, and it's not duplicatable. And more importantly, the trust that your clients have in you drops off because you will drop balls. You will make promises that you can't deliver on. Hey, I'm going to send you that estimate tomorrow. 3 days later, the client reaches out. Hey, where's that estimate? Oh, man, I was this, and this. You are going to start hurting your reputation if you are living that way and letting your calendar run you where all you're doing is firefighting day in and day out.
Right.
So if you're living that, the number one thing to do, look at your calendar for next week. Just plan what days I'm going to be in the office, what days I'm going to be out on job sites. If you're not that spot, if you're you're still swinging a hammer, let's say, all right, these are the days that I'm working. I'm going to do a half day on Tuesday or a half day on Thursday to do paperwork. So I'm going to let my client know I'm cutting out at 12 on Tuesday because I've got to go do some other things.
Yep.
So whatever it is, look at what you need to do in a normal week, and let's start making days and time blocks of when that stuff's going to get done.
Right.
And then let's honor ourselves and our company by
sticking
abiding
to
by
it.
that. Because I can plan all I want, but if I don't stick to it, it's not going to happen. Now, I'm not going to lose customer service or customer care because my calendar is more important. But if I have a week where things go sideways and I don't abide by any of it, no problem.
Next week, I'm getting back on the train.
New me Monday.
That's right.
Right. We're going to start over next
I like
week.
that. New me Monday.
My wife and I say it every weekend. That's why we eat real bad on Saturdays and Sundays. Anyways, so that's kind of what you need to do when it comes to time management. We need you to own your calendar and know what's happening. And by doing that, we can start blocking time to do step 2 of our 3 steps.
Well, and that's what I was about to say. Why this fundamental is where I start with all of my coaching clients. If you don't have control of your time, you don't have the ability to give your space to work on your company, because that's what's coming next, right? If you're wanting to move to the next level, if you're wanting to grow, if you're wanting to develop, if you're wanting to duplicate yourself and hire people and whatever it is, if your intent is to grow from where you are, you have to have space to work on your company, not in your company. And the only way to do that is to change the order of the way that your time is spent. Not letting other people spend it, but you're in charge of that. So that's why everybody balks at it and they're like, oh, time management, I know. It's so vitally important. If you want to grow, you have to have time to create growth.
Yep. I mean, it's look at any successful business man that's out there, they have a very, very, very detailed calendar that has time built in for family, that has time built in for whatever they want to do. But this is how I do meetings. This is how people can have space. If they come to me, they have to come to me this way. And so we're going to organize and require that of the people around us, because we have a systematic way that our time is spent.
That's right.
And people will fit into that, right? Customers understand that. Now, if it's a Tuesday and we spill a 5-gallon bucket of paint on these hardwoods, I might hop in the truck and go to the job site because we got a big fire. But that should be the outlier, not the norm.
I had a call from one of my guys this morning who I was supposed to meet with early this morning, and he called me and said, "Hey man, I've got to reschedule with you. I've got a client. They had a main pipe burst, and all my PMs are slammed, so I got to go out and handle it." Okay, cool. Go do what you need to do. I get it. When do you want to reschedule this for?
Yeah.
He's like, "Can we do it tomorrow morning?" Okay, great. I didn't bump it, right? We rescheduled it.
Yeah.
Right? So because there was a value, we need to have that time to be working on our company.
So you can't do the next 2 steps unless you have control of your time. So that's why we always start there. And we can't, we talk about eating the elephant one bite at a time in the last podcast, where I need to just do 1 or 2 things every single week to help my company grow.
Yeah.
You don't have time to do 1 or 2 extra things currently in your schedule. So we got to find that time somewhere. And so being efficient with your time, where I'm not going to visit the same job site 5 days in a row, I'm going to have a systematic way of when and how I visit those, is how we get efficient and start finding those free hours in your time without you sacrificing your home life and your weekends.
Right.
So that's number 1, time management. How do we control our calendar? Once you have that down, the second base fundamental that we have is organization. How do you organize everything? This is the systematic way that we can start delivering what we promise, what we do. This is what started our software 9-10 years ago. Was we had 17 spreadsheets. We had 3 different softwares we were using. Then we had to go and update QuickBooks with it all. And our organization system maxed out at Jared and I. We couldn't hire anyone else to run this because you had to have a PhD in our crazy spreadsheet layout to understand how the system works. And so we actually combined all that into the software, and year over year said, okay, it'd be really cool if it did this. Oh, what if we sent work orders to crews from here? What if we did this? And so year over year, we kept improving it to where 3 years ago, we're like, let's spin this out and let other people use it because this is super powerful. But the software itself isn't magical. It is a systematic way to run jobs to where if we build our systems around it, in tandem together, that is how you get successful. Right? Success is built on systems, and the software is the systematic way that automates a lot of your systems.
Well, and some clarity on that, real life example clarity. You just mentioned all the different things that we had, yellow pads and spreadsheets and QuickBooks and all the stuff that we were doing, trying to manage all the work that we were doing. We were spending 4 or 5 hours a week just updating, managing spreadsheets, making sure the data was correct, then getting that information to clients, and there was
updating
a lot
QuickBooks
updating QuickBooks. Right, there were at least 4 hours a week minimum we were spending on all that stuff. Now it's an hour
at most.
At most,
and it's automated when you're. Honestly, most of that stuff is automated through the software when you're doing the normal tasks that you're doing. Right. If I go and say, okay, I want to mark these things complete and send an invoice, I click a button and sends an invoice. The client pays. The payment goes into the software, updates the software, and goes to your QuickBooks and updates the QuickBooks. So I now don't have to receive the payment, update this. I then have to go into QuickBooks, add the payment in. All of that goes away because of the software. Now, we're really pushing the software pretty hard because we love it. But the truth of it is software alone doesn't fix your system issue. You have to have the software that we have is based on the systems that work in a construction company.
If I have a software, and I've got it, it's there, but then I jump back on the hamster wheel of letting everybody run my time, and I'm just head down and I'm running jobs and getting stuff done and making sure clients are happy and collecting checks and paying crews, doing all of that stuff out in the field. The software is worthless.
Yeah,
it means absolutely nothing.
It's a filing cabinet.
That's right.
You're spending $200 on a filing cabinet. You don't need to do that. And so really, what we want, that's why the name of the company is ProStruct 360. It is a 360-degree view of your company because software could be a tool or it could be the main battle station of how I start at and build what's happening this week.
I always called it my mission control.
It's the mission
where I
control.
could see everything that was going on and direct my troops and connect with clients and vendors and crews.
That's right. And if you just want a filing cabinet, use our free software.
Yeah.
That's fine. Just do that. It's estimates and invoices. It's a way to send those. That can happen on that.
Yeah.
Once you're ready to step up to the plate and actually organize and build these systems, it's $89. Or if you want the QuickBooks integration, you're at $199. It's $200 a month, which is over $1,000 cheaper than the next guy that has the same level of software that we have.
Well, and again, we were running 5 hours worth of labor to manage all the different stuff.
Yeah.
We decreased that down to at least a minimum of an hour. So we've saved 4 hours, or what is that, 16 hours a month.
Yeah.
And you're paying $199 for a software. I guarantee the efficiency that a software is going to bring is going to it's going to be worth the spend.
Yep.
No doubt about it.
So the second step is organization. We use software to organize, but then not only having a software there, but actually a systematic way that you organize the software. This is how we upload photos. This is how we market to this status. This is when we do it this way. This is how we put jobs on hold. I have systems built around the software as a tool, and this is how we utilize it. And this is where the organization piece is where we're going to start building step by step, right?
Yeah.
The time management, either we're going to own a calendar or not, and there's some steps in terms of let's start time blocking for this, let's add this in, let's change this around.
Right.
That's tinkering with that, but that can be set up pretty quickly. The organization, baseline a software, prostruct360.com, baseline a software, and from there, we're going to start building the systems around how that tool and how the process work. So it could be my mission control to start managing everything. I can know and see the levers I need to pull when it's time to pull them and have full control of my company versus everything's in my head. And my brain is a system, which means everybody needs my time to access the system.
Right.
And so that's what we're shifting through the coaching program. And what we want you to be doing is looking at how do I organize the jobs? Because once I have that, I can start training people on how to do it my way.
Yeah. Well, and what you are in essence doing is you're creating a replicatable client and vendor and employee experience.
Yeah.
Right? Every one of them is experiencing how your company runs in some form or fashion. The goal is for your client to always have a replicatable product and an experience. It's not the paint and the flooring and the thing, it's the experience. We're in the customer service industry. We just happen to be the ones that are putting paint and sheetrock and flooring in, right? It's the experience that we're creating that becomes replicatable. Once I can do that, then I can hire somebody, and that person can just press the levers, do the things, and have the same replicated product that I'm doing, and I've duplicated my bandwidth of business.
Yeah.
Right? When guys come to us and they're like, there's just nobody that wants to work. There's no good people out there. They don't know how to do anything. They're not smart enough. Whatever it is, anybody can come in and have character, morals, and ethics, and then follow a process.
Yep.
Right. So this is the baseline fundamental of paving the road of going there. That's
Exactly.
where we want to go. This is the baseline start. You've got to start at this organization with a software that will eventually create the experience for your people.
We had over the past week or two, we've had 2 different people come into the coaching program, 2 different companies, and both companies started on the software, and they were in the software using it, and they're like, "This is great, it's working." We love the organization of it. And then they'd go through our initial onboarding, like a 2-hour, this is basic systems that we want you to start with understanding. And you see the light bulbs go off. They're like, oh, that's why it works this way. That's why. And so understanding it's a 2-pronged system. You've got the organization tool, the software, and then I use that as mission control to run my systems through it.
Yeah.
Right. So it works on its own. You don't have to run our systems to run the software, but it is if you've got both combined, it is a recipe for success, because it is a way that you start organizing and building to where we can start giving those bite-sized pieces that we're going to start using in the time blocks we've created during time management.
Yeah. Well, and going into the next one, the software, our software is a major piece of this, because the next one is financials.
Yep.
Right. Financials QuickBooks, finance management is always the thing that ends up on the back burner, right? Everybody's like, I know I need to do it, but really my pressure relief valve is I can hand my receipts to my CPA at the end of the year and they just figure it out, right? That's fine to keep you out of jail from the IRS, right? But that doesn't allow you to make strategic decisions in your business based on educated financial decisions, right? So our software connects with QuickBooks and it pushes all financial transactions associated with your jobs into your QuickBooks and categorizes and organizes them for you, saving you time. You need to be doing that. You need to be managing your finances so that you know how much money do I have? How much money can I afford to spend? Can I afford to make this decision? And the only way that you can, most guys go in and they pull up their, BOA or Wells Fargo or, whatever online and they look in and say, yeah, I've got $10,000 in the bank. I can do this thing. That is not how you run a business.
Yeah, because you got an $8,000 check sitting out there that someone didn't cash yet.
Right.
And so you think you have money, you don't. It's the pot method. I'm going to put all my money in a pot. I'm going to spend from there and see what happens. That is the way most contractors run. Most contractors live by, I got this much in the account, so that's how much I can spend. And that is not a single successful company runs that way. Right. You can run that way for a year, 2 years, 3 years as a one-man show, but there's no growth. There's no company there. It's just you running that way. Because
there's no system of organization, right? Yeah. So the goal is like, I've got to be able to have a system like a QuickBooks to organize my finances, and then I have to organize them, right? That's the very, very basic beginning of I've got to start doing that and building time with my time blocking, my time management to spend time working on my finances.
Well,
but then the directional goal is to get to a place where I know what I am strategically going to do with every dollar. I have an annual company budget, not just a monthly budget, but I have an annual company budget that helps me understand, am I on track for the year? I have a bucket system of different accounts where I put different money for taxes, for payroll, for operate, right? That's the directional goal of where we want to get, but that's the, 301 level, right? Coaching and development. The beginning of that is you have to focus on your finances. You have to organize them.
And why finances is so, the financial piece of this is so important is we're not going to be caught with our pants down financially. We're not going to be like, oh crap, we have no money, or I bounce checks, because you know where every dollar's going, where every dollar's coming from. But more importantly, as important as that is I can now take my financials, and that is going to be my indicators as to what's broken.
Am I healthy? Am I in trouble?
I can look at this project manager A and say, okay, this guy's bidding jobs at 35%. And if I look at his jobs after the fact, not just when we think we're done, but all the 17 go backs that we ended up having to pay for.
He's hitting 10%.
We're at 6% profit on this job. And so then I pay him. I'm upside down. What's broken in this guy versus my PM number 2 who doesn't have that issue. And so you're going to start finding issues of what's working, what's not working. Once I know my financials, as well as some other data that you have from organizing your software, I can look at, hey, these jobs are going over 30, 40% time-wise. And so every day I'm on the job site, I'm not making money somewhere else. That's a huge, huge hole in your bucket, because I might have made money, quote unquote, on this one job, but the job went from 3 months to 5 months. And so instead of making an average of $1,000 of profit a day on it, I now are making $600 a day because it went 2 extra months. And so that you don't realize that leaky bucket's happening because we still made the profit on the job. So
I closed the job out. The client was happy and they paid me.
Right? And so a lot of what we do with the strategy of growth is all based in the financial numbers and what we can see. And that all starts by organizing your company to where you're updating financials, you're putting in the receipts, you're doing stuff that you don't really want to do. And when you're a one-man show, honestly, you don't need to do because it's all in your head. I
get it.
The $10,000 in the bank account, I remember I cut a guy an $8,000 check. But as soon as I have 2 project managers and we've got a payment system that our office manager is sending out payments to crews, I can't keep all that in my head. And that's where it starts falling apart. And that's the hamster wheel that I'm falling back into the original way I was running things, where I am the system in my brain, and that's the only way that things run.
Yeah.
So those are really the three base fundamentals that we start with every coaching client. That if you're listening to this, you don't want coaching, no problem. This is where you start. Time management. Find time and organize your week to where you can look at exactly where your time's going to start building in spaces to work on the company.
Taking control of your own time.
Taking control.
It back.
Step 2, organizing. The software, a baseline of how jobs are going to run from first through final invoice. We call it our project management process. And that's what we do day one with our contractors. This is every step in those 10 steps of project management. This is how we do intake. This is how we do estimates. This is how we do invoices. This is how we run the jobs on site, start to finish, and we give you all of that. But having that down and then implementing that into the software and keeping accountability on that is most important. And once you do that, the third phase is looking at financials and understanding those. You can't do that unless you've organized, because that doesn't happen. And you can't do organizing until you do time management. So if you can do those three things, you have finances put together to where I could say, hey, give me a month-over-month report on profitability and revenue for your company. If you can pull that up in 5 minutes, that's success. You've got your financials in order, and we can then help consult from that spot. If you're not there, let us help you get there, because there's a way to organize to do that, to where we can use that information to really start pulling levers and tinkering with what should happen next. When can you hire? How should you hire? Who should you hire? How much do we have to spend on that next hire? How much do we not have to spend because we're going to wait 3 months because this is happening? We see this on the calendar coming up. We've got these 3 big jobs starting next year. Whatever it is, we need that information to make smart decisions about the company. So those are our 3 base fundamentals.
I would say this, a applicable takeaway, right? If all you need to do is you can start working on these today. We're rolling into the end of the year, rolling to the beginning of the year. Time management, organization and systems, and financials. So plan a spot on your calendar. I don't care if it's weekly, once a month, whatever it is, to do plan a space, an hour to just focus on what are my systems, how am I organized, and how do I want to replicate that, right? And then here are my financials. I know I hate this. I'm not good at numbers and whatever, but I'm going to plan time that's when I'm focused on it. You're already, just by doing that, you're executing the beginning of all 3 of those things. And then just start there, a small spot of setting that up on your calendar and stick to it. And you will set up and start rolling towards creating the base fundamentals that you can grow.
And if you want help with the financial side, tune into our next podcast. Our next podcast, we're going to talk about how you should be looking at money monthly, weekly. How am I managing and what am I looking at in my finances to understand what levers I should be pulling today for this week, this month, next month.
That's right.
So we're going to dive deep into that next week. But that, again, we got to start with this week's stuff. Right? We got to go through the time management and starting to organize, and then we'll work in the financials to get it going. So if you want to talk with us, hit us up, prostruck360.com.
We'd love to talk
to anybody. We have a ProServe. If you go into the one of the tabs on top, you can find ProServe Alliance that talks about the coaching programs. Honestly, we build those around your needs. So we've got kind of 2 main levels on that, but we also have a bunch of different options depending on what you're looking for, whether it's heavier on our paperwork side or heavier on the accountability and coaching side. We can really kind of hear what you need and see if there's a fit for you.
That's right.
And if not, no problem. We'd love to just chat with you and interact, whether you're on our software, come into one of the retreats or whatever. We'd love to chat. So talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Bye.